Hi, I'm Doug Keck, and this is a special EWTN bookmark. We're going to be speaking with Monsignor Slavomir Oder, postulator for St. Pope John Paul II's cause and the beatification cause of his parents, Emilia and Karol Wojtyła Sr. Great to be with you, Monsignor. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation of your first name. I know when you were on with Father Mitch, he nailed it because of his Polish background, but we're doing the best we can.
Absolutely, it is understandable.
Now, you're not on this show to talk necessarily about a book, but you did actually co-authored a book about 8 years ago entitled John Paul II, the Saint Who Conquered the Heart of the Word, right?
Yes, that's true. It was the second book. The first one was published with after the beatification, practically, and was the presentation of the sainthood of John Paul II. It was entitled "Why He Was a Saint." So this book you're talking about was written as a presentation of my experience during the process of canonization. It means between beatification and canonization, and it was very particular moment of the work of the postulator, because I have a lot of relations with people, because the process of canonization is composed of two processes. One is beatification, and it is necessary to present the heroism of virtues, and absolutely is necessary to confirm this work with a miracle. But for canonization, it is necessary to obtain another miracle. So
and this would be a miracle that would happen after the
after the beatification.
Right.
And this book was written just after the beatification in the preparation of canonization. And in this period, my work as a postulator is just to take contact with persons, because it is people of God that can praying obtain the miracle.
Right.
And it happened. The first book treated just life and virtues of John Paul II. In the second book, it is we present with Valentina Lazraki practically the way of perception of John Paul II in the eye of people who talk about their experience of graces that they obtained by the intercession of John Paul II.
Now, in this book, and just as a general purpose, what was the actual miracle that was used for the canonization?
Well, it was a very beautiful miracle. Normally in the process of beatification and then canonization, it happened that you can work over the virtues, and then you must wait years for the miracle. In this case, the miracle for the beatification occurred practically at the beginning of this process, 1 month after the death of John Paul II. And what was healing from the Parkinson disease that obtained Sister Simone Méripierre in Marseille, in France.
Okay.
But the miracle for the canonization happened exactly in the moment of the beatification. When the Pope, yes, it was something incredible. When the Pope Benedict pronounced the formula of beatification in Costa Rica, following by television, Floribet Mora Diaz, a woman of Costa Rica, Costa Rican woman, who had the problem with aneurysms, cerebral aneurysm, yes? Well, she felt be healed exactly at that moment. It is incredible. So I must say that in this process, I work according to the invitation of Pope Benedict, who at the beginning of the process said, you must work well, but very quickly. Well, it is what was something that pushed me in this process.
Why do you think he said quickly?
Because I am sure that he was convinced of the sainthood of John Paul II. You know, during the process, I went to know that before the conclave, who elected him as Pope, there was an initiative of a group of cardinals leading by one of the cardinals that promote a petition to the successor of John Paul II to promote immediately the process. And one of the signatories of this process, of this petition, was Cardinal Ratzinger, you know. So after the process, after his election, he was really a great sponsor of this process. He gave the dispensation for the waiting for 5 years before the beginning of the process. It is usual.
Right.
Of course, Pope Benedict was not able to be a witness in this process because he was a pope. So he was, well, it was very hard to have, practically impossible to have his witnesses. But every year, in the anniversary of the death of John Paul II, he used to celebrate the Holy Mass in the Piazza San Peter. And all his homilies were really beautiful witnesses of somebody who lived nearby the saint, you know. I know that between Pope John Paul II and Cardinal Ratzinger, there was really a friendship.
Right, a bond there.
Yes, they collaborate very strictly, and there were great understanding and great collaboration, and the same way of the same vision of the church. So it was a fantastic team in the leading of the church, you know. So I think that these words, you must work quickly, it means it was something that he heard in his heart, just as necessary to give the testimony to the truth about the life of John Paul II.
Now, you're from Poland.
Yes, I am.
So how well, or did you know John Paul II when he was alive?
When he was elected as Pope, I was 18.
Okay.
Of course, I knew him, but, well, at that time, the first person who you were talking about the Catholic Church in Poland, was Cardinal Wyszyński, of course.
Right.
He was the...
We ran a great documentary on him.
Yes, a great leader. And Catholicism in Poland, it means Cardinal Wyszyński. I knew Cardinal Wojtyła because he wrote a book about love and responsibility. And I had the opportunity to read it. It was not very easy. But
that's what I've heard. It's very tough.
Yes. So I knew him in this way. And well, it is one paradox in my life that when he was elected Pope, I was just 18. I was thinking about my future and my vocation, and I was thinking about entering in the seminary. But, well, just the election made me stop in this path, you know. The enthusiasm that we were living in Poland at the day was so great that I really felt fear if what I was doing was the effect of this enthusiasm, or really my desire to respond to the God calling.
Right.
So I decided to enter to university, to study at university. And, well, but the Lord found his way to arrive to my heart and say, no, you must be mine. This is way. So I entered to seminary, and after 2 years of my preparation in seminary in Poland, my bishop sent me to Rome to continue my studies at the seminary of Rome. And I remember this period very nice. It's a very nice, important period of my life. Not only because it was something beautiful for my preparation to my priesthood, but also because staying in Rome and the seminary, it was possible to meet Pope several times. So I could meet him, I could celebrate the Mass with him. He used to come to the seminary every year, and he used to stay with us at the table. So I had a speech to him when he went to seminary as a representative of seminarians. So my relations was was something very important for me. But at the same time, I stayed all the time out of the sphere of Vatican life, because my life in Rome was life in the Diocese of Rome, known in Vatican.
I see.
So I knew him, I could admire him, but at the same time I had a healthy distance to this reality.
Right. I was going to ask you, so from your interactions with him and then researching him as the postulator, what was the most surprising thing you found in the testimonies of the people that you interviewed?
Well, it is what I find it very special. It is just naturality in his life. You know, maybe somebody would think about the Pope, he was a visionary, he had some mystical experience or something like this. That's true, he was a man of deep prayer and really mystic, but mystic in the sense that he was living in the front of God. You know, Lord was always present in his life. But what was something beautiful and makes me feel him very, very near to my life was the simplicity of his life, naturality of his everyday living. For me, this process led me to know John Paul II as a priest. It was something that his identity was just a priesthood, not to be pope or bishop. He was a priest, and everything was added in his life was something was added and reaching with his priesthood, but in his heart he was a priest. I remember during one meeting with Pope in the seminary, it was very nice because he stayed with us like a father with Hans, and it was possible to talk with him also, to make him question and so on. And I remember one of my friends asked him, "Holy Father, it must be so hard to be a vicar of Christ, no?" And he said, "Well, it would be practically impossible to live without fear if I would not celebrate every day the Holy Mass in persona Christi, as alter Christus." It means just a priest. And he lived his life just a priest. And it was something beautiful. It was the aspect of his spirituality that was for me so important, because, well, I said, oh, it is possible to be a priest. It is possible to be a saint priest. You know, I think that it's much more simply to be a holy priest than Holy Father, Holy Pope, you know. But he was able to do it just because he was a really a priest.
So how were you selected to be the postulator for him, and was he the first cause you had ever worked on?
Well, from time to time I asked me how it was possible, why me? You know, in Rome there is a beautiful church, San Luigi dei Francesi, in the center of Rome, where is a beautiful picture, the calling of Luca. And Jesus entered in the room and asked him, "Well, follow me." And he looked, "Me? Me? Just me?" And I asked me, why me? Why me? I think, well, probably because I am Polish, and I stayed so many years in Rome. But as I said, I was never involved in the life of Vatican. It is nothing bad to be involved in the life of Vatican, but it possibly, well, my situation helped me to have this distance, you know,
What you said,
that is
right,
necessary,
right,
what is necessary. And I had a preparation because some years ago I worked over the process of blessed Stefan Frelichowski. He is a priest of my diocese, and he died a martyr in Dachau during the World War II. So it was my professional preparation. I prepared this process, and it was John Paul II who proclaimed him blessed in Toruń when he went to my diocese in 1999. I have never thought about this process as just an preparation for the process of John Paul II. So I think that the fact of professional preparation, but at the same time my situation of life between two worlds, Italian word and Polish word, helped me to in this work. It was Cardinal Vicar, Cardinal Ruini, who appointed me to this process.
Okay. Now, with Blessed Stefan, what's interesting with him too is it's not just that he was arrested and put in Dachau as a priest, but he actually went out of his way, broke the rules, and was working with people or trying to treat people who were sick with typhus. And it's because he did that that he lost his own life, right?
Well, it is another beautiful person that I met in my life. He was arrested because he was a priest. It was the main cause of his of the arrest of him, and he was very involved in the life and activity of scouts in Poland. So for German, he was considered a very dangerous person, and because he lived, he had the possibility, you know, at the beginning of the war to escape, to move, knowing that he would be arrested. He remained in the parish, staying with parishioners, because he said, well, I am a priest. It doesn't mean when I can work. I work here in my parish, but I will be priest everywhere. And really, when he was in the concentration camp, he continued to work as a priest, and he treated this reality as his parish.
Right.
And it was something beautiful. He continued to work as priest. It was impossible, for example, to organize the religious life, praying and so on, but he did it. He did it. He was able, and it is something amazing in these conditions, to organize also holy masses. He celebrated the masses, and for many of these prisoners, it was the last Holy Communion that they received from his hands. And when the war was going to the end.
Yeah, it wasn't that far from the end.
No, absolutely.
Would have been liberated actually fairly soon.
Yes,
right?
yes. He, well, in the camp was the epidemic of typhus, and he decided to go there just as the priest, with absolution, with consolation,
comfort the people,
stay with them.
right?
And well, he died in this in this way. It was because he was very weak, because of the persecution that he was subject. But really, he probably would survive, but he decided in this way.
But sometimes when one is trying to move with a cause that has great merit and great holiness to it, there are roadblocks put in the way, you know, in a sense, that don't want to see this process because it'll have a positive impact on the people in the church.
Yes, of course, because, you know, the process of beatification, it is something that, well, we can say have the exemplar character. What does it mean? We all are called to sainthood, and as John Paul II repeated, and also Pope Francis repeats very often, there is a lot of sainthood spared in the world.
Right.
But the saints who are appointed by the church as an example have two roles, yes, goals, yes.
Mm-hmm.
One, be an intercessor, and the second, be an example
Right.
of light.
Right,
Of light.
absolutely.
So not every man who maybe swears to be saint, or better, who is saint, because what we do here on the earth, it is not that we constitute sainthood or saint. We just prove that somebody
Right.
was saint.
Right. Now, obviously, I'm assuming to some degree because of the success and the work you did on St. John Paul II, that you're now involved with the cause related to his parents. How did that come about?
Well, the process was promoted by, especially by Cardinal Dziwisz. I think that he feel it just a part of heritage that he received from the Pope, from John Paul II. You know, the Pope was very discreet and delicate in this matter, but we know that he appreciated his parents very much, especially his father. During the life of John Paul II, absolutely it was impossible to promote this process. It would be something very strange. But the way of life of John Paul II and the way in which he expressed about his parents probably led Cardinal Dziwisz to understand the beautiful life of this spouses. So after the death of the Pope, he invited me, probably because I just know the life of John Paul II, right. And I'm inside the life of the family of Wojtyła. He asked me to lead also this process as the postulator. Right. And I am very grateful because it is something really beautiful. You know, I could just touch with my hand, I can touch much with my hand, the truth that was expressed by the Pope during the Mass of the canonization of Queen Kinga in Poland in 1999, when he was talking about the sainthood in family. He said that the saints do not pass, they remain with us, and they live from the sainthood, from the sainthood of other persons, and they thirst for sainthood. And I think, well, the example of the family of Wojtyła, it is just the illustration of this verse. They are still alive in the memory of many persons. And this family was something that was the nutrition, spiritual nutrition, and the earth in which the sainthood of John Paul II was grow up. And I think that, well, the example of the Holy Family, all Holy Family, can be an example that just confirm that saints throw for sainthood, you know. Right. Now knowing the parents of John Paul II a little better, because we are still at the beginning of the process. At the beginning, well, we are collecting the witnesses of this process, in this process, but entering in their life. Right. I can see that not only parents of John Paul II lived their life in a very saint way, but there is a brother of John Paul II, Edmund. Right. It is a really beautiful young man and young Christian who gave his life as a young doctor, assisting a person who was ill of the scarlet fever, and at the time it was practically incurable disease. Right. So he stayed with this person and offered his life, caring this person. So I think that also Edmund is a person that will have his future in this process of the beatification. I'm deeply convinced about it.
Just before we go, I'm just wondering and listening to you talk about John Paul II and his experience and what came out of his family and that idea. Do you have a sense with the importance of the family to a Christian life, a Catholic life, and the reason why the family seems to be under so much attack today?
Yes, absolutely. I think that it is very important for the church just to to present a family, like a path for the church and an environment in which the sainthood can be matured and can be lived. You know, I think that today the culture or so-called culture try try to convince us that the traditional values are not worth. And family, it is the place where man can experiment his value, it's his dignity. That man make the experience of faith, meet Jesus, to learn the sacrifice and so on. All these traditional values that man can live and make man great, really great, and precious in the eyes of God. So I think that the family is just under attack, and the response of the church should be just indicate family as a place of sainthood.
Right. Well, we have Pope St. John Paul the Great, the Second, the Great. Thanks to, in some ways, your fine work, and we expect the same, obviously, with his family. Monsignor Slawomir Oder, postulator for St. Pope John Paul II's cause and the beatification cause of his parents, Amelia and Karol Wojtyła Sr. This has been a special edition of Bookmark. I'm Doug Keck. Thank you for joining us.